Hi, welcome to the new hardest thing I've done in a video game. If you played Birth by Sleep's hardest super boss as Terra, and you thought it was too fair, or if you played Kingdom Hearts 3's final super boss with all pro codes and thought it didn't take long enough, or it was not complex enough, this is the fight for you. This fight uh took me about a month to beat under these conditions. I'm gonna do my best to talk through it, but it is notoriously difficult to describe what is even happening by the time you reach the final phase, and it's already very complex by the first few moments, even if it kind of just looks like you're jumping over him over and over again. Uh, Normally, when I have recorded a video of something really hard or given a guide for something and talked over it, I've liked to say that it can serve as a reference and tutorial and information for not only completing the task under the challenge conditions I'm using, but that they can help you complete the task under any settings. And while in principle I do think that's the case here, this is beyond overkill in terms of strategies for what you would need to do for this fight in a normal situation. And while I hope I can cover a lot of behaviors of this fight that you will not see in a lot of tutorials already present on the internet, uh, if you just want to beat the fight normally, you would maybe be better off just learning from one of those instead, and maybe this video can just be more of a demonstration. But uh, with that said, like anything in a game, I think if you have the physical ability, the free time, and the mental fortitude, anyone can do this. It's just a question of if you would want to. I wanted to. I don't think very many people would want to. This is absurd. So, first off, before I get into the fight proper, and this is probably going to be a much longer video than the already long normal clear that it is because of how difficult it is to describe what's happening sufficiently. This might even be multiple hours, even though it's a 20-minute fight. So you're just gonna have to bear with me with these paused screens while I rant at whatever comes to mind. I am still doing this unscripted, although I did this time take a couple of notes in advance of behaviors that he does not even display in this entire clear video, so that I could put some of the footage I do have of those behaviors later on in a playlist so I can show them off after the fact. Not all of them. I don't still have footage of all of them, but as many as I reasonably can. But um, I do have energy constraints, so this is still going to be unscripted, even though it could probably benefit from a script. I saw Nerf left a comment that the amount of information about you learn doing this fight could probably fill a book, and I don't think that's too far off. If I was gonna write a guide on this in text, it would not be a subsection of a guide for level 1. It would be its own separate guide because of the length of the endeavor. This took me, if I counted right, 25 days of almost entirely just doing this fight alone. I had 2 days earlier on before I started in earnest where I learned some phase 1 stuff. Then I finished Hades Cup and Ice Titan, and then I came back to it, and for 23 real-time days, this was almost the only thing I played. I also played a Donkey Kong Bonanza one of the days, I think, maybe 2 of those days. I had a day or 2 where I didn't play anything, but this was almost a month of just this one fight. So, first of all, the settings under which I'm doing the fight, for those who don't know, this is Kingdom Hearts Final Mix for PlayStation 2, and all of those modifiers are relevant. Sephiroth behaves differently, much less predictably and more punishingly in Final Mix compared to non-Final Mix. And PS2, in addition to only being 30 FPS, I'm playing at level 1, and the PS2 version of the game does not have the EXP0 ability natively. This is a modded version of the game that simply removes experience gain, and the official version of EXP0 that was added in the PS3 versions and later has some hidden buffs that I don't get any of here. Those buffs are a damage multiplier against bosses. So in a typical PS3 or later version of this fight at level 1, the fight would take, I think, about 7 minutes. I've never done it. This run takes 18 minutes, I believe, and that's even with a fair amount of holding a speed up button when he's using Frog-a-Wall to make attempts not take quite as long. Another ability you get from official EXP0 would be an innate built-in survival mechanic. So in any setting, normally in PS2 and later, when you have EXP0 on, the maximum amount of damage any attack can do to you is your max HP minus 1, so you will never die to one attack. That's modified such that in super bosses like this, you can survive 2 attacks, I believe. Never got that far in the official versions of level 1 yet. So I don't have that advantage either. I have no additional survival protection. The final advantage EXP0 gives you isn't really relevant to Sephiroth anyway. It's damage storage. It's a little quirk that makes KH1's already extremely powerful magic system even more powerful, but Sephiroth is immune to all magic except Era, so that would be pretty hard to make use of anyway. So that's the first constraint is that I'm playing this modded version of PS2, so I don't get any of those buffs. As a small concession, we do get scan and an extra bit of AP so we can actually use scan. The modder just had mercy, thank you. So you can, I'm jumping ahead a little just so you can see here. I can see his HP bar, which is not something you would normally be able to do in a level 1 run, up in the top left, because scan is a level up ability, so you would not normally have it. We just get it anyway. That's a nice little concession. And not only that, if you look in the bottom right, there's two little indicators there. The first one with Sephiroth's face is just a challenge indicator showing that I'm uh, eligible to beat the guy at level 1 and without any banned stat boosts used. And the number there is a little leaderboard, and that's showing the damage that Sephiroth has taken. So we sort of have two separate health bars visible for Sephiroth at all times, which is pretty nice because it's less conventional for Kingdom Hearts, but if you get used to it, it's more useful to see exact numbers than having to eyeball HP gates from the little bar. I will still try to mention how you can deal with the few points in the fight where his HP actually matters, without the leaderboard or separately without the scan HP bar, but I did not have to play without either of this, and I'm not going to pretend otherwise. I did make use of them, so I'm gonna use them as reference and say how I did so when it's relevant. The only other, the only emulator functions I'm making use of besides that is, like I briefly mentioned, the fast forward. So here's the start of the fight, and when he frog walls, uh, you should be able to see the game speed up briefly. And there's also a little double arrow in the center of the top of the screen that shows you I'm currently speeding the game up as well, but I will not be making use of slowdown, frame advance, loading save states, anything like that, although I did use save states to practice the later phases ahead of time before trying the fight in full all in one go. And if you want to try this out, I strongly recommend you do the same if you have access to that. The last thing I want to mention about emulation is that I'm not an expert on this, and at this point, even though I've been playing Kingdom Hearts 1 since it came out, I've played more KH1 on emulator in the past year than I played it in the entire time before that. So this is just what I'm used to, but from what I understand, I think emulators have a little bit of innate input lag, so it might actually be a little bit harder on emulator in some ways, I'm not sure. Um, Another general thing is that while certain fights in this game sort of feel like they were not made to be done damageless, more than any other, this fight really absolutely actively, you can just tell they did not want you to do this fight without taking damage. So we're going to be making use of some weird mechanics and taking advantage of situations that probably are not entirely intended to survive all this. And because of this, the feedback on when and why things work is not always very clear. And I like to leave tips and guides for people and just to log what I've done when I can. And obviously, you use words for that, but I kind of soak games up into my fingers like a sponge, and that's how I learn. And the words come later. So sometimes I don't fully understand why something works the way it does even after all this, and uh, I'm gonna do my best not to say anything outright wrong or vague, but if I do, I'm trying my best. So for an example of that, something that I think I've kind of intuited from gameplay after all this is that uh, hang on a second. Sorry. Okay. So I think that if you just spam pause in this game, and I'll be pause buffering uh almost not at all in phase one, every so often in phase two, and almost constantly in phase three. I think if you just keep pressing pause, the game advances one frame at a time. But I don't know that for sure. I didn't test frame data. I don't know how frame data works. I'm just guessing. I think dodge roll might have like 2 frames of invincibility at the very beginning, but I don't know. It's hard to tell sometimes. Oh yeah, I guess I do make use of one other thing with emulators. So I'm using a PS5 controller. I think it's called a Dual Sense for some reason. And I remapped the controller to swap the functions of the start button into the triangle button. And that is because pressing the PS5 controller start button over and over was hurting my thumb. And I'm not exaggerating when I say this fight uh, directly impacted the function of my hands. My right thumb started involuntarily twitching sometimes, even when I was not playing any video game. So that's a new one. I've had hand pain before from playing Super Smash Brothers, but I don't think I've ever had uh thumb muscle spasms from video game overuse. Okay, I think that finally covers all the preemptive stuff almost 20 minutes into talking. Sort of, but I'm actually gonna jump way ahead in the video momentarily so that I can show off my equipment before showing off the fight proper, since equipment is more of a preparatory thing. and there's no way I was going to check and flit through all of my menus before every single attempt and every recording, just in case it was the run that wound up winning. I know pretty much for certain, I didn't count, but I'm pretty certain this with save states, this was counting the deaths after loading save states, this was over 1,000 deaths, maybe multiple thousands, and I would not be surprised if it broke 4 digits, even not counting the loads from save states, and it was just from the start of the fight. So here's right after the fight. Here's all the menus. I've got uh 1 elixir left over, which is a little crazy, but we'll talk about that later. You go in with 3 elixirs. Here's my equipment. We've got Ultima Weapon on. You really want Ultima Weapon. The only two Keyblades even worth considering are Ultima Weapon and Diamond Dust. And with the strategies, I use the 1 extra MP from Diamond Dust. It's not nothing, but it really is not important enough to be worthy of too much consideration. I did try out Diamond Dust for a while and practice first, but Ultima Weapon has the longer reach and it only has 1 less MP, so that's really nice. It also has the increased crit rate, which I don't think matters too much, but I think it might matter a tiny bit. Um, sort of very tiny bit. I'll talk about that more when I go to the abilities. And then just 2 cosmic arts. They do not grant you any defense. They do grant you a bunch of additional HP, but that does not matter. This is the consequences of being unscripted. I think I forgot to mention like the principal thing that makes the challenge ridiculous. I'm not just playing in the modded version of PS2 for level 1. Uh, the fight is so bad that for this challenge, defense boosts were allowed specifically for this one fight, and no stat boosts are allowed for any other fight. It's just defense boosts for this one fight. And a few other people, uh, Carlos, Soralis, and Nerf did beat this fight before me with defense boosts, but I don't have any stat boosts used whatsoever. So I'm going into the fight with 1 defense. You have 1 defense at the start of the game if you give up shield. The Cosmic Arts give you no extra, and I have no defense boosts used. If you are using defense boosts, and that is absolutely the path of least resistance to finish the challenge, if you're okay with using them, even though it takes, I think, hundreds of in-game hours to get enough money to buy Orichalcum for defense boosts, it's absolutely the path of least resistance, and you should do it if that's what you're interested in. But I wanted to do it without stat boosts, so that's what I did. And without stat boosts, right. If you are going for the defense boosts, you want to hit 46 defense because that lets you survive any one attack. Anyway, without stat boosts, no matter what equipment you have on, you will die instantly to any attack other than Heartless Angel, which Heartless Angel may as well not even actually do damage. It gets rid of all your MP, it uh deals some knockback to you, and it deals psychological damage to Sora. because that little kid is all he's all sad and there's an alarm blaring for the rest of the fight, but it's not real damage. You're at 1 HP before you get hit by a Heartless Angel, and you're at 1 HP afterward, effectively. And Cosmic Arts give you extra MP, and they give you extra AP, so that's why Cosmic Arts are so good, and that's why you want to synthesize not one but two of them for this challenge, and almost every fight in this challenge, not just this one. Here's my abilities. I believe I did not tab over to shared, but I have all the shared abilities equipped, which is sure to come in handy. You know you want Mermaid Kick on for Sephiroth. So, you can see I have one spare AP. So, we have an additional 2 AP for scan for some reason, even though scan only takes 1 AP, so I leave 1 AP left over. So I've got, to account for that, I've got scan on, I've got dodge roll on, I've got critical plus on, and critical hits do not deal more damage to Sephiroth than normal hits. The damage floor for this fight is 4 damage, and no matter what you do, you will not deal more than the damage floor. Every attack you do, no matter what it is going to deal 4 damage per hit. And his max HP is 1800, so that's fun. The benefits of critical hits, then, in theory, is that they knock him away a little bit farther and for a little bit longer. Honestly, I'm not great at recognizing when critical hits happen. I just react to what's in front of me. So I'm not 100% sure this even helps, but it probably does. So I have the ability on. And the last thing I have on is Strike Raid, which you need. So I show off the customization just for, I don't know, courtesy, but spells don't matter for this fight. If you have defense boosts, then Kiriga will matter. I can't speak too much to when you should use it. Um, I could try to guess, but I don't want to give any more misinfo than I have to. So I think I'll just leave it at that. And you can work out how to use Kiriga on your own. Carlos and Nerf have clear videos that use Kiriga, so maybe you can use this for reference if you want. But again, Sephiroth is immune to all magic except Arrow, and uh, Arrow increments his stagger counter to influence revenge. So it kind of makes things confusing with when to hit him, and if that wasn't enough, it uses up MP you could be using on Strike Raid, which is probably a lot more important. And there's my stats. That just shows I'm level 1 and don't have any boosters used. Okay. And before that, we have the real fight. Flashing lights warning. I'm about to cycle back to the start of the video in 3, 2, 1. There's your sneak peek. Okay, no more flashing lights. I'm gonna actually play the dang video now. Sort of. Maybe. Maybe not. We're a half hour in. Is it time to do gameplay yet? I don't know. Maybe. Sephiroth has 3 different types of revenge, and he has 2 different types of stagger counters that influence his revenge actions. Uh, his first stagger counter type is for consecutive staggers, which is to say in one combo against him, and if that stagger counter hits 4, then he will do a forced revenge retaliation. His other stagger counter is a global stagger counter which persists even after you end the combo against him, and once his global stagger counter hits 7, he will do a forced revenge action. He has a bunch of different forced revenge actions, and they are the main reason that the fight is insane, because they're very random and some of them very much want to just kill you immediately. So, other than the forced revenge, his other two types are, let's call them soft revenge and finisher revenge. You'll usually just be seeing finisher revenge in phase 1, but you can see either, and if I remember right, uh, this attempt opens with seeing all 3 revenge types right in a row, which is, I guess, convenient. In phase 1, he has 3 types of attacks, sort of. He has a quick slash, a jump slash, and Faraga Wall. Quick slash and jump slash have a bunch of different names that, due to different localizations and obscure sources and stuff, I'm gonna try to stick with calling them quick slash and jump slash, I guess, for consistency. They're fast to say. Um, if you high jump over him, uh, to our right as we're facing him, then that will go past both of his slash types. So that's how we're going to open the fight. We're gonna high jump over him to our right. His quick slash is just horizontal. Oh, I might short hop actually, because you can kind of do that a little bit, but high jump is easier and safer. I have this fight very far in muscle memory. But quick slash is completely horizontal, and the jump slash starts low to his left and then swings upward to his right. That's using his directions because it matters sometimes. So when we're facing him and how Sora's currently facing him, that means it's a low hitbox on the right and a high hitbox on the left, which is why we'll be jumping to the right here. Okay, so that was a high jump. So he opens with a quick slash, I jump over it, I get a punish, and I get 2 hits, but then, oh no, I whiff my finisher because KH1 Jack. Great. Uh, I still don't know entirely why that happens sometimes. Your aerial finisher can just whiff sometimes. It seems to happen most often when you're either really high up or if you do your combo really quickly. So if you're worried about it, you can just do 2 aerial hits and then do a strike from the ground instead. Um, that'll give you less MP charge than if you used a finisher, but it's not gonna make or break the fight to do it a handful of times. by any means, but if you've already whiffed your finisher, it's time to run. So that's what I do, I run. So, since that finisher whiffed, uh, that was 2 normal hits on him. So then when I back off, that triggers his soft revenge because I did not use a finisher. And his soft revenge can either be frog wall, like you just saw, or it can be a quick slash. Again, we're not going to be seeing much of soft revenge in phase 1, but we'll see it more in phase 2. So that's his continuous stagger counter at 2. We back off, we get a soft revenge. Now his continuous stagger counter is down to 0, and his global stagger counter is still at 2. To maximize our damage output, we want to reach his global stagger counter's revenge point of 7 with 4 hit combos, or we wanna actually finish, and excuse me, we wanna get as many hits as we can before hitting the global stagger counter's 7 value, which means reaching a global count of 3 and then going for a 4-hit combo. So, because of that, I'm going to be going in and getting a late single hit and backing off. So that'll trigger Soft Revenge one more time and it'll bring his global stagger counter up to 3. I delayed the hit a bit so that it would be easier to run away after landing it. So now his global stagger counter is at 3, and a 4-hit will trigger both types of both stagger counters revenge values. So we'll trigger 4th revenge and reset both of his stagger counters to 0. So for phase 1, the standard way I'm going to be doing that is jumping over him, 2 hits in the air, a strike, a thrust, and then immediately on hit, transitioning that into strike raid. On the PS2 version, the triangle button does not trigger strike raid. Instead, you need to activate it from the 4th slot on the command menu. So, before my 4th attack even connects, but once I do the input for the 4th attack, I'm going to be menuing. So there's the 3rd hit, and then once I can bring out my 4th hit, I'm going to just be pressing attack and then immediately D-pad up to menu to see, like, even as the thrust is coming out, I've already menued to strike in the 4th slot on the menu, and then once the thrust actually hits, then I press confirm again, and that activates strike raid. So the forced revenge we got here was a warp, and out of a warp he can do 3 different things, which is awesome. He can frog a wall, he can quick slash, or he can jump slash. Basically anything he can do after the revenge warp. He does frog a wall, so I'm gonna do 2 Keyblade tosses from my strike raid, both for safety and to get damage on him. Strike Raid is invincible the whole way through, but the big disadvantage of it is it's difficult to find safe escape timings out of it. You have actually quite a lot of flexibility in when you time each throw, but once you've thrown that keyblade, it is thrown, and you're not going to get out of the strike raid animation completely for a while. So a lot of the fight in phases 1 and 2 comes down to finding how to exit the strike raid with the highest probability of safety. So I'm going to be manipulating when I time my throw tosses relative to Sephiroth's actions, because his timings and actions are both quite variable, so I'm trying to react to that. And generally, I want 2 keyblade tosses with a slight, but not a huge delay in between the tosses after he activates Frogawall. And then once he finishes Frogawall, he'll go for a jump attack, and then I should still have invincibility and he'll go right through me like that. And then I should be coming out of my animation while he's coming out of his animation, and then I back off so that if he goes for a second consecutive jump slash like he just did, that won't hit me either. So let's do it again in full speed. Strike raid, toss, warp, throw again while I see what he does. 2 throws, then I walk away. Let's do it again. Here's a finisher revenge, because I actually landed my finisher this time. So, finisher revenge always incorporates Frogawall in some capacity, but he mixes up how he surrounds that Frogawall with other slash attacks. But if you just get a finisher on him and neither you nor he is up against the wall, then if you just do one quick roll back, or even if you just take a couple steps away from him, then even if he goes for immediate Frogawall or a jump slash, you should be safe until his Frogawall is done. So that's why you see me confidently speeding the game up whenever he's using Frogawall in Phase 1. Phase 1 became very autopilot for me. Like, my brain was barely doing cognition until after my second elixir usage in a lot of Phase 1 attempts. So his global counter is at 3. Let's go for another forced revenge here. This time he does an immediate Frogawall. And once again, we want to do 2 keyblade tosses with a slight delay between the 2 throws. I don't know why it matters that you do the delay between the throws, but it influences his warp positioning, and the next part of the survival strategy, you shouldn't get killed from this positioning if you delay between the keyblade tosses, and you might if you don't delay. So you saw I waited like about 1 second between the throws, and now I'm going to high jump up and super glide away while he's setting up his warp, because if he doesn't warp immediately from a forced revenge, he's going to once he's done with what he does at first. And I'm gonna super glide away in a straight line. Ideally, you want to super glide away with a wall of the arena to your left, that is to say to Sora's left, but it is more important to go in a straight line if you can, in my experience. But this was one of those things where I learned how to do it naturally, didn't realize what it was I was doing that worked, unlearned it for a while, got killed for a long time, relearned it. So this is an area where I don't fully get why it works the way it does, and maybe if you want to do this, you could test some more, but this is what I had the most success with. So you can see I'm super gliding away in a straight line with a wall to Sora's left. Sephiroth warps into a Faraga wall, and we're already out of range of the Faraga wall. Once again, let's play it back at full speed here. I'm gonna see him do the instant Faraga wall. While I'm strike rating, then reacting to that, I'll do a slight delay. Throw again, high jump, super glide away. And we're back to neutral. What's he do this time? More Faraga wall. So here it's a little bit more difficult to decide how to do the super glide, because we're like sorta kinda towards the middle of the arena. So let's see what I do. I don't remember. Yeah, I just sort of like go for a straight line. I guess that's fine. If you're really in a pickle of how to do it, you can like mega delay all your strike throws and just keep doing throws and hope for the best and hope you can use one of the escape strategies I'll hopefully be covering later. It sucks if you wind up using Judgment the last hit of strike grade, because although no hits of strike rate, including Judgment, add to his stagger counters, Judgment will nonetheless count as a finisher and immediately trigger his finisher revenge, even though both his stagger counters are at 0. So it can be pretty tricky to live if you hit a Judgment. So as a panic option, maybe do those really slow strike grades. I don't remember whether I do ever in this attempt, but ideally and usually you want to go for straight lines and against the wall if you can, but still, if you have any kind of straight line, just go for it. There's another one. Oh, I'm doing it. Wait, am I? What am I doing? No, see, that was just a normal thing, and I thought I was doing something else. My brain was off. That's how you win at hard stuff. You don't think, you just let your fingers do the work after you finished thinking forever ago. So just same thing as before, it looks like I did say. Okay, here's the, here's a different forced revenge type coming up. He does another instant warp, and this time he warps into quick slashes. So if he warps into slashes and you're in the middle of strike grade, it is somewhat random if you can survive, but your odds of survival are pretty high if you know how to handle it. So since I react to him quick slashing out of the warp, I'm actually just not gonna do even a single additional raid input. So he quick slashes again in this instance, and then he stops doing anything, and since he's standing still, I know he's gonna jump. So I just like stand still too, kind of walk past him, let him jump way past me. If he had done a jump slash instead after the instant slash, then I would have just rolled away or backed away. Something I haven't mentioned yet is that Sephiroth can use Frog-a-Wall even in neutral behavior. I do not believe it is based directly on a slash counter like I saw in suggested in a tutorial video I watched, although I could be mistaken. Again, weird learning methods here. Um, but if you learn to fight well enough, his neutral pattern is not predictable exactly. He has a lot of mix-ups in how many slashes, how many jumps, what types of slashes he does, but if you learn it well enough, you can get an idea of how far off he is from using Frog-a-Wall. So since I saw him jump there, after the jump he's always going to do one type of slash or another. And then after that, I know for sure that if I go into his melee range, he's going to do one more melee attack on me without following that up with a Frog-a-Wall. So I'm gonna go in and punish. However, and I don't remember if this happens in this run, uh, if he had done a single additional slash after that, he would immediately follow that up with a Frog-a-Wall, and if you had tried to punish the final slash, it might look kind of like you retaliated with Frog-a-Wall, but no, he just does Frog-a-Wall after what that slash would be. And not only that, I'm gonna play it one more time. Uh, so you saw the melee he opted to use there when I went into his melee range was a jump slash. If you do not punish the jump slash with perfect timing and you're especially unlucky, he can use a quick slash immediately afterward. Uh, Sometimes you can know it was going to happen, even if you do punish him perfectly, because you'll hear the voice clip of him doing quick slash, even though he doesn't get his quick slash animation out. And if you don't punish the jump slash perfectly in that situation, then you will parry the quick slash by accident, and then he'll immediately do a Frog-a-Wall and maybe kill you. You can actually leave that situation by rapidly menuing to strike raid and using that as you land. But then that's an extra strike raid usage, which is not ideal. So, uh, a lot to keep in mind, and if you're less proficient at the fight and you don't want to play with fire, uh, a different indicator you might use for when it's safe to bait an attack of his and punish it that I used before I was less confident might be if at any point you see him use 3 slash attacks or do either type of jump, he has a low jump or a high jump, then just keep jumping into his range and super gliding or regular gliding back out of his range until he Faraga walls, and that'll reset his neutral AI cycle, and you can go in and punish after that. Okay, that's a lot for one little thing. There's another immediate Faraga wall. The the walls of the arena are actually not equal in length. The walls by the door and by the gate are shorter than the walls by the bleachers, so you actually have less room to escape when you're gliding along the short end walls here. But at this juncture, from that positioning, that shouldn't matter really, because we're right at the edge. And we're in phase 1, we're doing the second raid throw. It should be pretty much fine just to glide left like that anyway, but uh, if you don't have a good straight line and you you're already using the wall and you need to keep super gliding to escape, you can kind of try to follow the curvature of the wall as you super glide. You might get clipped by a sword slash if you do that because of the magic of geometry and angles, but usually you'll live, which is better than usually not living. So you see I'm already out of range of the attack, more or less, by the time I've hit the corner, but I've also already started to curve a tiny bit here, and then I'm following the other wall by the time my super glide is over. Oh, all this time I didn't even like mention the very basic principle that if when you go into his melee range with the jump, if he quick slashes, you react to that and attack him before you even land, and if he jump slashes, you land and then you short hop and then you attack him. And you want to uh, time your punish on his jump slash so that it's right as his animation ends, because he does not stagger while he's still in the jump slash animation, which, great, more damage without adding to his counter, except then he's not staggered and you're in range of him killing you again. If you wanted to, you might be able to experiment a little bit with finding a way to uh, do that reliably to without dying to eke out extra damage. Maybe you can do that and still start a combo after, I don't know, but I'm certainly don't ever do that here. Moving on. He retaliates with a jump slash. That pretty much doesn't matter in phase 1. You can just read it as a slightly later warp. What's he gonna do after he warps? Another frog wall, so we'll be doing 2 more throws now that he's spawned. And we're now deep enough into the fight that I can call a little more attention to our MP conservation and rationing. Since, unlike in an official level 1 run, Sephiroth does not drop like a fly, we have to actually pay attention to our MP usage. you can see here, uh, his stagger counts are at 0 since I'm in the middle of his retaliation, of course. And my MP bar is at 1 full blue bar, but there is absolutely 0 orange additional MP charge. Something I only realized after doing this fight a lot is that you get more MP recharge from finishers. So the uh, fewer finishers you do, the earlier you're gonna have to use up your elixirs. If assuming that we do the standard combo you've been seeing me, the standard pair of combos you've been seeing me do in every cycle except the very first one, then you'll get enough MP to use Strike Raid, 2 MP, if you start out the cycle with 1 blue MP bar and even the absolute tiniest bit of orange MP charge on top of that. We don't have any, and that means we need to use an elixir. So now I'm going to be looking for an elixir opportunity. You can see I already menued to the items as his Frogawall was ending. Just as soon as I got my last raid input out, I was already menuing, and now I'm running away. And because I've seen that he's slow walking, he's given me a moment to use my elixir here. He attacked there, and he jumped. That was a low jump, so I know he still has that same amount left before reaching Frogawall that I discussed earlier. If he had high jumped instead, it would have indicated he was further in his AI cycle, and the next attack thereafter would have been followed up with a Frogawall. But since that was a low jump, he does an attack on landing, and I can just, like normal, go back and bait out an attack and punish it. But, once again, if you're less confident in the fight and you don't want to play with fire, the safe way to use items would be just to camp him out or bait him out until he uses the Frogawall and use your elixir while his Frogawall is up, and then reinitiate proper combat with him after that. There's no reason to risk all of this like I'm doing if you don't feel safe doing it. And I did die a handful of times going for these riskier item usages, but I need to keep myself moving or I'll go crazy. Okay, this time, after his forced retaliation, he warps into a jump slash. That's probably the most dangerous action for escaping strike raid. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to do one last raid input around the time when he is right about here. When he's kicking Sora in the knees. No. When Sephiroth is has actually jumped out to reach Sora and he's pulling back, that's when I want to do my final raid input, and ideally that will get a hit on Sephiroth, but more importantly, that's the likeliest opportunity for you to be able to escape the strike raid safely. You see, he went for one quick slash and then jumped in this case. And then from that timing and positioning, I judged that jumping away would be best. So I did. I'd like to be more specific, but I'm doing my best here. The video's already a lot. If you were to see him warp into a jump slash from like abnormally far away from you, then in that instance I might let him, and he's like starts slow walking, then I might let him walk closer to me and throw one more time. But generally, if he warps into a jump slash, then I throw one more time when his body is reaching and pulling back from Sora. There it is again. That time he did one more jump slash after, and I had an opportunity to roll away after a strike raid ended. There's one more, and then I just do a little roll out of his range, then weave back in for the punish. And it's partly because I go right back in right away after that I have such a good idea of where his AI is at in terms of punish safety. Or at least that's how it feels. Maybe it would be fine even if I didn't do that, I don't know. But if I ever lose confidence in my safety, then I do like to start baiting out his actions until he frog a wall so I can be more confident about where he is in the AI cycle. You can see a while ago we actually start to see his regular game HP bar move. Every HP bar is the 300 HP. So we'll see ourselves in the new bar with over 300. Oh, it's nice to finally have a bit of a down moment. Like, fight has calmed down temporarily a little bit. Not for long, though. We've got ourselves out of MP again. How does that work? Yeah, okay. Here I've got my one blue MP, and I do have a little bit of orange as well. So I know that if I get one finisher in the middle of all this, which I do, then I'll get enough MP by my fourth hit of the next combo, seventh hit total of the cycle to use strike raid. If there's even a little extra orange MP cast the blue bar after the first combo, you're good. If not, then you need to retreat and find a spot to use your elixir early. Getting close to phase 2. I think I wrote down when I figured out the exact trigger was. It's once you've done 632 HP from my experience is the exact point at which you trigger his transition to phase 2. And I would say that it doesn't, there it is. I would say that it doesn't really matter if you can see his HP through either metric for the phase 2 into phase 3 transition. His HP doesn't have a lot of direct influence on how you handle that, but it is pretty important here. Or, well, not pretty important. You definitely could do this without seeing his HP. It would just be more annoying. You wouldn't be able to deal damages optimally. So, quickly, I'll just mention that if you did not have scan or the leaderboard, it would theoretically still be possible if you're crazy enough to just keep track of how much damage you've done to him yourself by just counting, since every hit you deal does 4 damage. You can just divide the relevant numbers by 4 to make it easier if you want to. You're gonna need quite the brain in your head to keep track of all that the whole fight, but it would theoretically work to keep track of where his HP barrier is. More realistically, you would just fight like normal and respond to when he does a crazy high jump into beckoning you and going, come. And that's your indication that he's entering phase 2, and you would work off of that, and then you would, if needed, finagle his revenge a little bit during the start of phase 2 to make up for it. I did actually do that once, and I have a video of it. I'll show that off at the end amongst some other things. But I am working with actually being able to see his HP. So getting back into it. Starting off this cycle here, I see he has 608 HP and or 608 damage, and I think since I know that a 4-hit combo and even a couple additional strike raids will not immediately trigger phase 2, I think I'm gonna go for it to maximize damage if I remember right. Yeah, so even though that was the start of the AI cycle, I still go for a 4-hit to reset both of his stagger counters and get some more damage before entering phase 2. Also, I don't think this has happened yet before in the video. You can see there, my Keyblade hit the bleacher or the tree or something. You might think that that changes the strike rate timing, so you have to throw again earlier, since it's in Sora's hand again earlier. It's the opposite. Sora gets recoil, and you need to wait longer before you can throw again, and you need to adjust your timings based on that, if that happens. Anyway, now that Sephiroth has 624 damage done to him, I know that a 4-hit combo will trigger phase 2 if he has 616 damage done to him or more, then a 4-hit combo will trigger phase 2. And when that is the case, he will not do his normal revenge action for specifically that revenge. Instead, he'll warp and do his phase change action. And because of that, I'm gonna go in and get another 4-hit combo, and I'm gonna do it a little differently. I'm gonna go for two-hit aerial combos to maximize my mobility. Now he jumps to trigger phase 2. I lock on as soon as I can. You can't do it immediately here, even though sometimes you can when he warps. And I'm gonna follow him over here, and as he starts his come animation, I'm going to get a quick 3-hit aerial combo on him because he will not stagger while he's doing that animation, and he's a complete non-threat when he's doing it to signal this phase change. But you want to be careful because if you do it too early or too late, then you can stagger him, and then I don't know what that does to his stagger counters. And you really want to know what's going on with this for phase 2 because the loop to make phase 2 semi-consistent um has some moving parts. Alright, to start phase 2, he's gonna do Heartless Angel. Instead of one AI cycle for phase 2, Sephiroth has 4 AI cycles that proceed in order after one finishes or after any of his 3 different revenge types are triggered. His first AI cycle in phase 2 opens with Heartless Angel, and you should always be able to target him even before he's visible when he's going into Heartless Angel, and you should always be able to get to him and hit him. For the reason I wait and do ground combos on him when he's in Heartless Angel is because his hitboxes seem like they can get a little weird when he's doing Heartless Angel, and sometimes if I hit him right away, then Sora jumps up even though Sephiroth is on the ground, and that makes it difficult to continue the combo. And sometimes if I go for an aerial combo, I just whiff for no reason I can discern. So instead I do ground combos, and the reason sometimes my ground combos themselves are a little slow with delays between the swings is to normalize the knockback he takes a little bit. If it's not really the case here, but if you're like right up next to him and you're both up against the walls, and sometimes doing a finisher can leave you in quite a bit of end lag and just knock him kind of right next to you, and that can leave you at risk of getting clipped by his revenge. And I don't like that. And the game knows how to handle enemy knockback a little better if you slow yourself down a little. So if you see me do slower ground combos at any point later, it's trying to account for that. So there's his forced revenge like usual. Or, no, that wasn't forced revenge, sorry. There's his finisher revenge like usual. And his stagger count is at 3. He'll move on to his second AI cycle for phase 2, which always opens with a dash toward you and a quick slash, which you can counter by short hopping over him. and attacking him, and to manipulate the progression of his AI cycles in order to make his behavior consistent and also stabilize our MP a little bit. We're going to only be doing a single attack to him to put his uh, global stagger count at 4 now, and we're backing off and triggering soft revenge, which was just Frogwall again this time. And now he's on to his third AI cycle, which is exactly the same as his second AI cycle. That's nice. So we do the exact same thing. And now you're going to see me pausing the game every time I trigger his forced revenge. And the reason for that is partly for MP conservation, but more importantly, it is so that we don't have to work with unreliable raid escapes when he warps into either type of slash or even just Frogwall, but I think that would be manageable. Mostly just if he warps into either type of slash, because after his forced revenge, he's going to be going into his fourth AI cycle, which is just Wild Dance, his first of 2 possible desperation moves in the fight. You might know it as Omni Slash, depending on your background with the game. And we really don't want to be stuck in the middle of Strike Raid while he's activating Wild Dance. The reason that pausing helps with this at this point is because Carlos discovered this for some reason. If you pause from certain positionings, right as he's about to hit with a jump slash, instead his jump slash just does not hit you, and that's fantastic. Due to a freak coincidence, I guess, I actually checked this back to see what kinds of retaliations he did in the run. We're actually never going to see an immediate jump slash or a single warp into quick slash, but we're gonna be playing as if he could, because he could. And uh, after the video, I will show off instant jump slash. I will not show off warp into quick slash because I assumed one of the many videos I still have saved of this fight and haven't deleted yet would have that, but it doesn't. Um, with that being said, I'll cover that a little bit more when he actually retaliates with a warp. For now, he's retaliating with an instant Frogwall, and I'm going to respond to that the exact same way as in Phase 1. What did he do after warping there? Sorry, I'm gonna see here. Okay, so he warped into a jump slash. He will either do 1 more slash after this or 0 more. So to prepare for Wild Dance, I've already locked on, even though I can't really see him yet. The lock on will give me a better camera at a sooner opportunity. Okay, here's Wild Dance. I guess First of all, let's start with the basics for wild dance. You high jump over him, and you start your high jump right as he's bringing out his first sword swing. So he's got his arm wound up there, and I've got Sora like kind of coming out here, but not jumped yet. And here he is bringing out his first swing, and I have Sora in the high jump animation now. So it's fairly late. The timing on the high jump is much more forgiving than the timing on the other parts of Wild Dance, but no part of it is truly forgiving. You do still need to know how to time it. So we jump over, then when you see this horizontal slash he's doing here, you know it's the next slash of his that you want to roll through. So not yet, now. So you wait until after that horizontal slash is done, then you roll after it's done. You can obviously die from rolling too early or too late, but it was much more common for me to die from rolling too early, personally. So I'm gonna stand still after that roll. I'm gonna wait. There's another horizontal slash. It looks the same as the last one. It's the same deal here, same timing. I roll through the next slash. Very cool frame. Love to see Sora just alive in a sword trail. And after that, you'll probably see me walking around almost, if not every time. But there are a lot of different ways you can handle this, as long as you don't go towards him or stay completely still. You can uh, probably dodge the rest of his slashes up until the final one pretty alright. So you can even just take like 2 steps back and be fine. You can roll back and be fine. You can circle strafe right and be fine. You can circle strafe left and be fine. And then you just wait until he's charging up this very last dramatic swing. And then as he brings his sword, I want to say like 2/3, maybe 3/4 of the way down to its lowest point, then you press the attack button, and that should parry. Again, like with the rolls, uh, you can die from being too early or too late, but it was much more common for me to die, whether in practice or in real runs, from attacking too early than too late. It's pretty deep into his wind up, and then you finally attack. And then, even without any jump input, a lot of the time Sora should just, like, go up here. And as long as you're close enough to him at the end, Sora should clink like that with the right timing. And then I saw some people go for the punish on Wild Dance from here. You can do a 3-hit combo as you land. And actually, I think if you're fast enough, you can get a 4th hit, but then you're liable to accidentally stagger him and make his AI loop weird, so I never go for that. That being said, I found it a little inconsistent to get a full combo on him from the falling, and you actually have a fair amount of time to land a combo on him. here. So what I like to do is I land, do a little short hop to give myself some spacing for an aerial combo so I can be more confident that I'll land with my swings, and then I go for a quick 3-hit like that. And I say that's more consistent, and in my experience it is, but I still don't get the 3-hit combo every single time. I think I miss it once, maybe even more than once in this run. And that's what we're going to be repeating every single time for the rest of Phase 2, although we have not covered all behaviors yet. It's going to loop right back to Heartless Angel after this, though. As soon as he disappears, I'm going to press lock on again to see him even before he's visible and walk or roll over to him and punish it. So the reason that I kite him to a corner or close to a corner uh, for the second and third cycles of the AI during the loop is to hopefully give myself more room to raid escape and super glide away if I end up doing that type of forced revenge survival, because I want to give myself as much room as I can. And the reason I do it even for the first hit, that's only one hit, instead of only taking him to the corner for the forced revenge, is because, as you just saw, soft revenge usually triggers immediate Faraga wall, but not always. Sometimes it triggers immediate quick slash, and then he's right back in action. And then it gets pretty tough to kite him around much more than that. So I want to have the positioning such that he's at least relatively close to a corner, even if he quick slashes like he just did. So then I can just go right up. And you see right here that after I landed from my 2 aerial hits of this combo, I actually took like 1 step forward with Sora. That's his walking animation right here, before pressing attack. And the reason I do that, even though it brings me further away from the corner, is because that helps to normalize which attack type Sora uses, so that it can guarantee him to use a strike here, the overhead swing, instead of a thrust, because the strike has significantly less end lag than the thrust does. So he warped here, and just like in Phase 1, after he warps, he can follow it up with either Faraga Wall, Quick Slash, or Jump Slash. And to attempt to cover all 3 of those options, what I'm going to be doing is rolling back with some pretty nasty timing. I'm not 100% sure if the timing is reliable to survive all 3 of them. I tried to err on the side of earlier rolls rather than later, because that makes it easier to survive Faraga Wall compared to a later roll. And in my experience, warp into quick slash is the least common of his follow-ups out of instant warp, and warp into quick slash is both the hardest of those options to time a dodge roll through, and the option of his that beats an earlier roll. With that being said, it's better to time it as good as you can, and as far as I can tell, the best time to place your roll is right when this blue-white circle of light that surrounds the orb he becomes as he warps away. Right as this circle of light disappears completely. So you can see it's faded into a softer blue now. Now it's gone and I'm rolling. So in this full attempt, we're never going to see warp into instant slash, and I considered it an acceptable loss if I died to warp into instant slash, and I think the results somewhat speak for themselves that I mostly didn't delete my runs that were halfway good, and I have 0 videos I haven't already deleted, it turns out, that have footage of warp into instant slash, but I have had this option survive warp into instant slash, so that's a primary reason that I'm doing it, so that it can potentially beat every option. Instead, what he's doing here is a warp into jump slash, and since I paused there again to see what he does after he spawns, the pause will, just like if it was an immediate jump slash, the pause will make his jump slash worse at hitting me. I forgot to even mention this, but something I started doing in phase 2 is upon doing the input for my last melee attack to trigger his forced revenge, the overhead strike. As soon as I do that input, I menu D-pad up to hover over strike raid without actually clicking strike raid, so that it'll be easier to strike raid if he winds up frog-a-walling afterward. He did not do that here, so instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do 4 inputs all more or less at the same time as the roll is ending. I'm gonna do lock on. I'm gonna do D-pad down to hover back over attack, so I'm prepped to parry the final hit of Wild Dance again. And I'm gonna do a high jump while holding the stick away from him. So I did all that just now. And the reason I'm high jumping is because after he does the 1 jump attack, he still has a chance to do a 2nd jump attack, which he does here, and this jumps over it. And now he's going to go into Wild Dance, and you can see, because of my kiting him to the corner and his warping behind me, he's now in the corner. And although the spacing on high jumping over the first hit of Wild Dance is generally pretty generous, you mostly just need to not be so far away that you don't make it over him, and not be so close the first hit doesn't kill you outright. If he's up against the wall, it's more important to come at him at a straight line, I guess, so that he doesn't, I don't know, maybe it's not important, but ideally you want to come at him from a straight line so that he doesn't like swing his first swing all sideways into you while you're jumping. But that aside, you ideally want to space yourself as well as possible before initiating your high jump. When he's in his Wild Dance startup, if he's up against the wall, because uh, if you high jump over him, uh, and you bump up against the wall and he doesn't have to travel that much distance, then it can denormalize his wild dance movements, and it can make the slash after the first slash that you roll through hit you. So that's why I'm spaced very specifically here at a specific distance. Then I got my jump. I walk forward a little to get the spacing right, and then I jump. There he's doing his horizontal slash again, and then I'm just doing the same exact thing as last time. Um, Sometimes I thought that the parry on the last hit was dependent on positioning, but I think that was just inconsistency on my part. I think it's just timing as long as you're close enough to touch him. Not 100% sure. I'd say I'm like 95% sure, which frankly isn't good enough. Uh, but, I guess it was good enough because I won, so what am I talking about? Here we are back at the start of the cycle again. I'm just stimming. When you see me moving Sora around, I'm just stimming. I'm just keeping my hands warm. Frogawall. Which way am I going? I think I'm going. Yeah, I'm going straight. Cause I'm not really close enough to the back corner for me to be comfortable using the left wall. The right wall barely matters, and I don't want to try to move closer to the far wall to use that as the left wall because Sephiroth is kind of between me and that wall, and I don't want him to body block my movement. So instead I just go for the straight line here and hope for the best. It probably works, and indeed it does. So, we've got another wild dance. There's gonna be like 13 to 15, maybe even 16 wild dances in one fight, depending on how your damage output and your phase 3 go. Okay, so this time we got a warp into Faragawal, which we can see from the pause buffer. And now we're gonna put that advancing the game one frame at a time from pause buffering theory into practice. You can see I already have strike grade highlighted like usual, so I don't have to worry about that in this instance. But if I did have to worry about it, I would try to pause the game, buffer D-pad up input, and repause to make the menuing a little less absurd. So my understanding is that you cannot buffer most combat actions in this game during action, but you can buffer the next input that comes out of a pause, but only for one frame. This is all just from personal experience feeling things out. So take the details with a grain of salt, test it yourself if you want to, but that's my understanding. And from this frame, Sora is like fully upside down. I can tell that Sora is not far enough into his dodge roll animation for me to activate strike rate on the next frame. So I'm going to unpause and repause immediately. Now I can actually see Sora's face, like the little goober he is. So now I should be able to bring out a strike rate on the next frame. So I'm going to unpause and I'm going to be buffering confirm to bring out the strike rate. Bam. And after a warp into Faragawal, my understanding is that he can do 0, 1, or 2 jump slashes. Again, like with a bunch of other things, not 100% confident about that, but that's my understanding, and I certainly know he can do 1. He usually does 1. So, as far as I know, Quick Slash is not reactable to dodge roll through even with pause buffers, but even on emulator, Jump Slash is reactable to dodge roll through, even without pause buffers. You can probably pause buffer if you want. I don't see why that wouldn't work since Jump Slashing has that weird quirk that I don't know if it's version specific or not. Maybe you don't even need to roll if you pause buffer it perfectly. Oh yeah, about that. You need to pause only once when he's about to jump slash. If you pause twice, it'll hit you again. That's great. This fight's so complicated. What was I even talking about? Right. So jump slash is reactable, at least for me. Human reaction times vary, so I'm gonna try to dodge roll the jump slash on reaction if he does it. I did it! Hooray! And then he goes into Wild Dance again. And that's Warp Frogawall in Phase 2 with this strategy. I don't know what I'm doing in that position, but it worked, I guess. So, I think at this point we've already seen every forced retaliation type we're going to see in this attempt at Phase 2. This successful attempt at Phase 2. I think we're just waiting here. There I am, doing that again, observing what frame I'm on my pause as I roll out. And, can't really see Sora's face because Sephiroth's in the way, so I guess you just need a feel for it there. But here we can see we can kind of infer what his head is doing. So if you have a good enough idea of how Frogawall works, or if you see Sora good enough here, you can see you're on the right frame again, get a raid out. Roll through the jump slash on reaction again. There's the second jump slash that he sometimes does. And we're just doing this. Phase 2 is the longest phase. By far. Without fast forward, I think Phase 1 is about 6 minutes. Phase 2 is about 8 minutes, and depending on performance and RNG, Phase 3 is about 4 to 5 minutes. Phase 2 is a slight luck check, I guess, probably. Not 100% sure if it's luck-based even after all this. But overall, phase 2 is just a crazy consistency check. I was feeling pretty good today. I recorded this today still, earlier today. But in a lot of other attempts, and even during practice, once I got like partway through this orange bar of health here, my whole head would start to feel like it was burning up from trying to keep focused during phase 2. And even today when I was doing it, I wouldn't say I felt that, but my head was still like, I lie down while I play for disability reasons, and my head was like lifting up from my pillow every time I was dodging Wild Dance, and like I knew it was a habit because I'd observed it a bunch of times by this point. But even if I'm trying to relax, I like wouldn't notice that my head was raised up until the Wild Dance was done because I was focusing so hard on trying to not get killed. uh, Phase 2, not only is the pattern the slowest to do, it lasts the most HP. It goes from 8 ticks into the pink bar into like a bunch of HP, style first person, a bunch of HP into depleting the yellow bar. Like the green HP bar is somewhat visible by the time phase 3 starts. So certainly in a vacuum, phase 3 is by far the hardest to learn and the hardest execution, but just as a consistency check, phase 2 is just as bad in its own horrible little way. It just goes on forever. And frankly, I think that's why I gravitated so much toward, moving Sora around when I was waiting out his Faraga walls, and stimming and doing weird little movements instead of activating fast forward, because, like, I needed to keep my hands warm and I needed to take breathers where I could and keep focus at the same time, and like moving Sora in weird little ways is just about the only meaningless thing available for me to accomplish all of that at once. So, green HP bar, it's showing up here. You can see like 10% of it now, or so. So yeah, there it is. There's phase 3. He is the chosen one. Green, Disney evil green color, even though this guy is from Final Fantasy. I guess maybe green is the live stream color too. Maybe that's why. Um, so, just like the rest of the fight, his global stagger counter is going to be maintained between phases. So when I was getting into like the last handful of attacks against him, I would start like I would start being conflicted between like alternating between focusing on what he was doing in the moment and quietly whispering out loud to myself how much he has on his global stagger counter because I don't have the amount of ticks into yellow bar or the exact leaderboard damage number memorized for the phase 3 transition like I do for the phase 1 into phase 2 transition. And even if I did, I would still have to remember. It would be equally fine just to remember what the last thing you did is. But he can hard transition into phase 3 in the middle of any of his actions. You're most likely to get the phase 3 transition uh, after Wild Dance, which works out in your favor because his global stagger counter will be at 0 after that. Or because you do a bunch of damage when you're hitting his stagger counter and then some more damage after Wild Dance. So it's pretty likely for his global counter to be at 0, but it can trigger at any point. So I'm like, 3. Ah, ah, ah. 4. Stim, stim, stim. 5, 6, 7. Run away! He's at 0. Stop thinking about it. Dodge Wild Dance. Oh god, oh help. Times the rolls. Don't roll too early. Roll. Oh gosh. Parry. Hit him some more. And there's phase 3. So he's at 0 now, but if he were at 3, you would need to not do a partial combo first to open phase 3. You would need to go right into a 4-hit combo. And if he was at 4, then you would need to trigger his Forced Revenge in phase 3 with a 3-hit combo, which is something you normally almost never need to do in phase 3. So you gotta keep track, no matter what he does and how much he does. Normally, Sephiroth always opens phase 3 with a meteor, but you can do a meteor skip. Meteor, once you learn how to dodge it, it's not actually all that bad to dodge, but it has a random chance of just sort of killing you, and it does have some weird factors involved in its dodge process that make it a little weird and awkward. Um, Even if you get to Meteor Skip, it is pretty likely that after a while you'll wind up in a situation where he uses it anyway, because I don't know exactly how it works, if it's time, if it's damage dealt to him, if it's AI cycles, how any of it determines this, but if you're still fairly early into phase 3, there's a good chance that if you break out of looping him, then he'll still use Meteor. You can actually kind of use Meteor as a shield that way, because Meteor is complex and annoying to learn, but um, if it actually works out, it's less bad than being set into neutral against him in phase 3, so if you wind up in a bad situation against him in phase 3, it can be nicer to have him fall back on Meteor than to have him do anything he wants to do ever, no matter what it might be. So I try to go for Meteor Skip every time. I still practice uh, phase 3 from attempts that don't get Meteor Skip in case. But almost all of my wins from a save state at the start of phase 3 in practice were with Meteor Skip. I think like one attempt, one without Meteor Skip. Maybe two. I think it was only one. So for Meteor Skip, you want to land an attack on him as he's sort of rearing his head back like this after he finishes his green power-up. If you miss it, then he'll have stagger immunity as he does Shadow Flare, which is when he summons orbs. It's a new attack he gets in phase 3. And if that happens, you just want to try to survive the Shadow Flare and then dodge Meteor. You can maybe get a combo ahead of time while he's got stagger immunity, but focus on living, of course. Um, Shadow Flare, normally you jump or fall out of, but in a pickle, you can roll through it. So, uh, adapt accordingly. Calmly study Sephiroth's actions and movements, like Kingdom Hearts 3. Um, but I do get Meteor Skip here, and I know he started the phase with, 0 stagger counter. I'm going for a 3-hit combo here, ending with an overhead strike. The reason I go for a 3-hit combo without triggering Forced Revenge or Finisher Revenge and instead going for Soft Revenge is because in phase 3, his revenge behaviors all change. His Finisher Revenge becomes Frogawall, which now also makes Dark Orbs of Death, into uh doing what he wants to after that. It's sometimes it's not too bad what he does after Frogawall in phase 3, but it can be hard to punish uh and survive at the same time. And if you don't punish what he does immediately after Frogawall, it's hard to survive, and sometimes he might just kill you. So Finisher Revenge is pretty bad in phase 3. Um, Forced Revenge becomes its own nightmare that we'll get into very shortly. And Soft Revenge becomes Shadow Flare. So I triggered Soft Revenge here. He's gonna warp next to me and do Shadow Flare. So then I do a jump up to make the orbs that Shadow Flare summons spawn above where I will be once I'm falling, which allows me to get a punish on him. So doing that allows you to pretty reliably get a full 7 hits on him between triggering Forced Revenge, which is really nice, so that you have to deal with the a little bit less chaos. Except I uh said something a little misleading just now to introduce the concept. Because what I'm doing right here is not a 3-hit combo. It's a 1-hit. See? Then he does it again. So, now I'm gonna back up and explain why that is instead. Alright, so, there's my first 2 hits, as I got Meteor Skip. And you can see I pause for a second to collect my thoughts, gather myself as phase 3 is starting. And, then, when I finally decide to unpause, whenever... Oh, I need to unpause in the current reality. That makes more sense. When I finally decide to unpause, I actually don't do my overhead strike, my attack immediately. See, he's already gotten up from his stagger partway here, and I still haven't started my attack. No frame here. The reason for that is I want, when I'm not yet in danger of triggering forced revenge yet, if possible, I want to land a hit on him with my strike while he's doing the warp into Shadow Flare that is his soft revenge. So he's got his warp there. He thinks I dropped my combo. He's doing soft revenge and he's gonna do Shadow Flare. But he did not actually count the hit, the 3rd hit that I just did to him. But I'll back up one more time. If you look at the damage count in the bottom right, it says 1272 now. And it's going to change to 1276 when I get that 3rd hit. And if you look at the HP bar, it's going to go down by an extra tick. There it goes, 1276. So that was not a stagger I did to him. I think this might be frame perfect, I'm not 100% sure. It's just a little damage optimization. So his global stagger counter is at 2 now, not 3. And once he soft revenges with Shadow Flare, I jump up and I hit him once, and now his global stagger counter is at 3. And I'm gonna roll to manipulate his positioning. And that 1 hit triggers Soft Revenge again. It's gonna be Shadow Flare again because it's literally always Shadow Flare for Soft Revenge in phase 3. And then I'm gonna do the real second half of my 7 hits. So, any time I'm going for my first 3 hits, I'm gonna try to time that 3rd hit to get the extra non-staggered damage. So now that we want to hit the global stagger counter of 7, we're gonna go for a 4-hit combo, and just for speed and consistency and low end lag, the general combo I'll be doing for the 4 hits in this phase is gonna be Short Hop, double aerial, short hop, single aerial, grounded overhead strike. And then I'm gonna pause the game. And the reason I paused here is the same reason I paused on triggering Forced Revenge in Phase 2 that we never actually saw so far, which is that now if I unpause the game after this without repausing again immediately, even though we see he's in his jump slash startup animation, the jump slash is not going to hit and kill me. If I did not pause the game here and he jump slashed like he is doing, I would die. I don't know why this game is stupid. Now that now that we're in phase 3, punishing jump slash becomes way harder because he immediately wants to do something else again. Usually it's a warp or it's a quick slash, and in phase 3, a quick slash is normally an instant loss if he actually gets that out and doesn't just get his voice clip out, even if you parry it, because quick slash now comes with dark orbs as well, which kill you as you land from your parry before you can do anything, including strike raid. So we need to punish his jump slash at the exact right time, which I will be always trying to do with a short hop aerial. And I missed it here. You can see he warped after. If the jump slash was a forced retaliation, then I think he always warps after it. If if after this warp he were to jump slash again and then I didn't get the punish, then we would be in deep trouble, like I was describing a moment ago. So, we still want to do a dodge roll after his warps in phase 3. And in fact, now we want to dodge roll through his warps. I guess in theory, even if it's not a forced revenge and he warps, but ideally that doesn't happen. Hopefully you're in the middle of a strike raid if that does happen. Anyway, you still want to warp. We still want to roll after he warps in phase 3, but the timing of the roll is different now. It's a little harder to time, in my opinion, if you have to do it after you land, but you can see the blue ring of light. He still has it as he warps away, but it's almost completely gone in this frame, and I have not started up my dodge roll yet. You want the black feathers after he warps away to flutter for about 1 second. I don't know. You really need to practice it and get a feel for it yourself, but it's one more in the cacophony of things where you can easily die from being too early or too late on your dodge roll, but I died way more frequently from rolling early than I did from rolling late. You want to roll later after the warp in phase 3 compared to phase 2. And, the timing is pretty tight, but, if he warps into the spin attack, which he often does, and you timed your roll right, then the spin attack will harmlessly go through you, and if it does, then it still won't hit you even after your roll is done. And then you can punish his spin attack as he's falling. You don't want to do it too early, because then he has stagger immunity, and you don't want to do it too late, because then he can do whatever he wants. But, uh, when he's fallen and right the instant he lands, before he has a chance to breathe, you can punish the spin attack and go back into the loop. And, there I go for the 2-1 again, but this time I miss my third hit completely. But the reason I go for that delayed third hit is because it's pretty low risk once you get the hang of it. The timing on his soft revenge, relative to when your attack ends, changes, of course, depending on when you did your attack. So, I'm gonna be pretty late ending my attack here since I missed. I was way too late. Or, not way too late, but I was too late. So, he's already warped next to me for his soft revenge. And if I were to press jump now, my jump input would be eaten. I would get no jump, because Sora is still, uh, he's still finishing his strike animation. So, less than a second later, but later, I can jump. And thankfully, Shadow Flare is not free timing and spacing wise, but it is much more generous than most of Sephiroth's actions, especially in Phase 3. And so, if this were a more standard Shadow Flare, I would do a full high jump, holding the buttons a maximum amount of time before dropping down to hit him. But, instead I released the jump button a little early. It's a controlled jump. And it might look like Sora got max height with that high jump, and he did, I think. But, if you just hold the button the whole time, then he'll linger in the air a bit at the apex of the jump, and Sora won't linger in the air if you release early. So, if you watch how long I stay in the air, it should be less time compared to if it was a fully held input. So I'm gonna jump up and right back down and hit him. And then because I did miss that third hit, his global counter was at 2, so I'm gonna roll away again and trigger the soft counter again. Go for the force retaliation. There's the jump attack, the jump slash again. Let's see if I get the punish this time. So, that time I did hit him, and it did not increment his stagger counters, but he warped away. It's possible I'm misinterpreting, and it is a timing thing and I missed the punish, but as far as I can tell, when he force retaliates with a jump slash, uh, if you time your hit right, it's a random whether you stagger him or he warps away, which, again, great, awesome. With that being said, he he did warp away this time, even though I hit him, so his counter's at 0. I'm gonna time my roll away. Spin attack. Go for it again. That time I strike too early for the extra hit instead of too late, which I don't know if it's true in this run or not, but I know that typically that is my most common result. So his counter's at 3 now, so we'll roll away to manipulate his spawn for Shadow Flare. He prioritizes not spawning in at the exact same location he was at, but uh, beyond that, his secondary priority for where to spawn is to spawn such that he and Sora are facing each other for his Shadow Flare Soft Revenge. So that's why I roll into the center of the arena there to get more arena space for myself. And here we get him doing a second Shadow Flare in a row as I land. He always does that immediately after a meteor usage. If you do meteor skip, sometimes he just decides to do it on his own. And I've only had it happen a few times, but unless I'm imagining it, but I'm pretty sure he also just decides to do it on his own anyway. Uh, if the fight goes on a really long time, even whether he used meteor or not. So, if this happens, the best solution I have is to react to the fact that it is happening and, uh, roll through the second Shadow Flare orbs, since you'll get hit by the upper one if you jump up again right away. There's no time buffer from him warping in between. He did not warp in between. And then I'm going to try to keep rolling away from him at angles such that I get as much distance as I can. And to facilitate that, I'm going to be pause buffering gratuitously to attempt to find out which direction he's running, because he's going to be side dashing around me. And when he uses his spin attack is random, but it is influenced by how close he is to you, and how far away you are also affects how likely you are to be able to get away from the spin attack entirely and survive that way. So here we are pausing a bunch of times. He's running that way, so I'm gonna roll away. And oh gosh, that's the wrong freaking hotkey, huh? I don't even know what button did that. I guess I'll menu back and try to find my place. That's annoying. The heck button was that? There's no way I was this far in before. Where the... Okay, this is a lot of yellow. This is probably good. This looks familiar. Yeah, this looks about right. Okay, here we go. So another tricky thing about when he double shadow flares is you need to pay extra attention to where his global stagger counter is at. Since normally when you're looping him, and uh, he does something other than Shadow Flare, you would be doing 3 hits to him. It's easy to lose track of what his global counter is at, in my opinion, but he was already at, what was it, 3 before? 1, 2, 3. And then he does the double Shadow Flare without getting staggered at all. So he's still at 3 here. So now I'm gonna do the roll away. And now even though I'm punishing a spin attack, where normally I would be doing 3 hits, his global counter is at 3 when I start. So I need to go for a 4-hit forced retaliation instead. Okay, we finally get a instant warp instead of a jump slash for our forced retaliation. So it's a little more normalized about when to roll relative to when you stop, so it's a little easier. This time I roll and pause to see what he's doing like usual, and instead of a spin attack, this time he's doing Heartless Angel, which I can tell from the voice clip, which sounds weird now that he's got all his weird effects. And it's a lot harder to punish Heartless Angel with the phase 3 strategies than when you're looping him in phase 2, because he warps into Heartless Angel faster than he warps into the other things, and you're already going to be in the middle of a roll when he starts it up. So you have a lot less time to change course and get to him relative to the amount of time you would have trying to get to punish Heartless Angel in phase 2. With that being said, I do a lot of pause buffers when I find out it's Heartless Angel, and I try to buffer a lock-on between pauses, which can be a little tricky sometimes, and use the camera movement to help with figuring out where he is. And if you're rolling fast enough, you can get 2 additional rolls on top of your initial roll. So 3 rolls total to make it to him and punish Heartless Angel in time. It's a little bit tight, but it is not by any means frame perfect. You have a little bit of wiggle room, and if you're able to get to him, then you're great. And if things are looking a little iffy, which they will later, I remember that, you can go for a short hop jump attack and try to delay his soft revenge for as long as you can so that you can recover from your own knockback from getting hit by Heartless Angel, since it's his only attack that won't kill you. It's his least dangerous move, even though it's still hard to deal with as of phase 3. So, this is a pretty unlucky spawn, as we can see here. I do my normalized timed roll away from his forced retaliation warp, and I'm in the middle of a roll in the exact wrong direction as he spawns in with Heartless Angel, so I'll try 2 more rolls to see how close I can get. And a thrust would probably activate on the ground from here, but I don't think a thrust would reach him in time, so I'm gonna try to go for that short hop aerial to get to him in time. And it barely makes it. Just get that little bit of extra distance from still having forward momentum while Sora does the strike. And if you see me do consecutive short hop single aerials like just now, that's again to normalize what Sora is doing, so I can jump really low and not have to like try to figure out on the fly if I'm close enough to Sephiroth and uh I still have enough airtime left that I'll be able to get the second aerial swing in time to actually connect. Instead, I can just do a buffer short hop into a second aerial right away, so that's why I did that. That's a little bit of a more awkward jump slash for a retaliation, but I think it gives me a good opportunity to mention something else here. So I do get the timing finally. I pause after doing my punish attempts on jump slash in this phase so that I can actually have a way to react to find out whether my attack both connected and staggered him, or if he's just freely moving around, or if he warped or what, instead of just guessing whether I should do a second aerial in a row. I guess maybe doing another buffer short hop aerial like I mentioned before might work for that too. I didn't try it that way. But that's not actually what I want to mention about this. What I want to mention about this is the longer I play this fight, the more accustomed I become to all the different sound effects. And like I said, the timing for punishing jump slash in this phase is very tight, and I actually use an audio cue to know when to go for my attack input from out of my short hop. When Sephiroth jump slashes, you'll be able to hear uh 2 footsteps a little spaced out in a row. It's gonna be 1 footstep and then another footstep, and then I'm gonna do my attack input. So it's not as the second footstep sound plays, it's after the second footstep, but it is right after the second footstep. So I'm gonna play it again and I'm gonna shut up. And I'm gonna actually turn the volume up a little bit. And maybe that'll help. I don't know, hopefully. So it went brum, brum, brum. So after the second footstep I hit him. There's I guess another thing to mention here with this jump slash too. So that was a warp into jump slash. Um, and you can see it's kind of just in my fingers. I don't fully know how I decide what direction to roll in for the phase 3 warp retaliation, but I tend to warp backward toward the camera a lot of the time. And you can see his starting position as he warps into the jump slash is fairly close to me. After he finishes the jump slash, and this is true of all phases, he's going to be a little bit behind where he started from relative to where he was facing. And he's going outward, like off towards that tree in the back there almost. So he's kind of like moving at an angle to me at this point. So I'm gonna make a turn coming out of the dodge roll, trying to predict where he's gonna land and be there ahead of time to punish him. But I'm only like just in range. I could have been a tiny bit further away, but not too much further away and still gotten to punish. And if you think you have any shot at punishing the jump slash, it is absolutely worth it to get into practice and go for those punishes. But once in a while, he'll warp into a jump slash angle where you just can't make it to his ending position in time to punish him. And then if you judged yourself wrong, he won't get hit by you and he'll probably kill you. And not only that, I think there are some situations where if you get unlucky with your roll direction relative to his angle, I think even if you do the pause, he can still just kill you outright if you're really unlucky. So it's an unlikely scenario, but it is not astronomically unlikely by any means. It happens some of the time. By the time, for the whole fight, but especially by the time you get to phase 3, this is a fight about weathering a maelstrom, and it's a fight about not simply eliminating your random losses, but mitigating your random losses. You want to reduce the possibility that you randomly lose as much as possible, but you still have to work with the possibility and accept the fact that you might just die at any time. Like, I'm not 100% sure that's true of phases 1 or 2, but for phase 3, absolutely. Incidentally, I currently am of the belief that the fight under these conditions is not human viable without pause buffering. It would be really neat if I was proven wrong on that, but that's my current belief, and the reason for that is primarily the weird pause buffering interaction quirk with the jump slash, since he force retaliates with jump slashes, and you don't just have infinite MP, and even if you did, strike rate escapes are very risky and complicated in phase 3. I think that even if you figure out how to plan around and react around everything else, it's probably not surmountable to deal with instant jump slash, uh, or really even warp jump slash retaliations without pauses. I really am curious if that quirk is in every version of the game or not. Or if it's something specific to PS2 or to Final Mix or even to PS2 Final Mix. So there's another jump slash. That one was instant instead of out of warp. I time it the same way. This time he does not warp and he actually staggers. So carry on like a normal punish, because it is a normal punish. Got the extra hit. Probably something interesting will happen again eventually. It's been over 2 hours. Maybe some dead air is fine, actually. There's Heartless Angel again. We've got some nerves with the pause menu menuing, hovering over quit by accident for a second. Not that that really matters. I'm pressing a pause button to unpause as well as pause, which should unpause normally even if you're hovered over quit, but still, you can see the nerves. Okay, and here at last we've got a problem situation. We have force retaliation warped in and rolled in response to that into a Frogawall, and unlike in Phase 2, since it's not normative behavior for him to do that anymore, and I'm not actively planning around it, although it would be possible to do it would just be even more annoying. I do not have Strike Raid hovered over already, so what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be trying to unpause the game, buffer D-pad up and repause the game so I can not have to do the absurd D-pad up, confirm, instant unbuffered, crazily timed menu, which I have done before, but I think if it's not frame perfect, it's gotta be close to it. It's not pretty at the very least, I know that much. So there it is. Pause. What looks like a frame goes by. Now I'm hovered over Strike Raid. Repause. Unpause. Pause one more time because I couldn't see Sora's face yet, so I knew it wasn't raid time. And then, lo and behold, that one extra pause has granted us a bounty of mercy for, don't know why this is. Sometimes you cannot see the flame pillars positions fast enough to be able to react to this, but we're already kind of away from any of the 3 flame pillars in this frame. And not only that, we're far enough away from him that we can now see that even though I took the effort to menu to Strike Raid, the Strike Raid option has disappeared and become a question mark, which means it's useless. So, instead of strike rating like we menued for, we're going to be rolling again, even farther away from the three flame pillars we can already see, and we're going to be menuing back to attack with deep head down. Hooray! Okay. Now, uh, he's very far into phase 3. He's well into his green HP bar, so it's very unlikely that he's still going to want to meteor, even though he has a moment to breathe. Since he did a Faraga wall, which means he's probably gonna do one of his more normal actions he does out of Faraga wall in phase 3. I think there's a chance he can hit you outright out of Faraga wall. But it's actually pretty uncommon for him to go right into spin attack or jump slash. And he's certainly not going to be doing an instant quick slash that'll actually hit you out of this, and he's not going to be doing an instant warp in this situation either. Usually, after a Faraga wall, in phase 3, yeah, see, like, he does an instant slash there, but it's nowhere near me. It summons some orbs, but I'm just not gonna go near the orbs. But usually after a Faraga wall, he'll do something relatively benign. Uh, Sometimes he'll run at you and do a dry jump, and then that's actually really deceptively hard to punish. Uh, I'll show that off later, that's not in this run. And if you can't get a punish on that, you should not greed for it. You shouldn't try if you can't get it, and then you should just go into strike raid panic mode in neutral. But if you can't get to him in time, you can punish his dry jump and then go back into the loop outright. Or he might go into Heartless Angel, or he might go into Shadow Flare. That's like the most likely stuff. So he warped, and there he is. He Shadow Flared. So I paused the game. I saw he was doing a thing with a little glow. I had a hard time telling if it was Shadow Flare or Heartless Angel, but if it was Heartless Angel and he's right next to me, it's not exactly going to hurt to do a high jump, so I just high jump up and hit the guy. Uh, oh, gosh. I hope this is recording okay. I really want this to work. I don't want to record it again. Uh, right, so I believe the reason I pause for a while here is I'm trying to remember what his global stagger counter is at. If we give myself a minute, I should eventually remember that it was Faraga Wall that triggered this whole thing, now that I've had a moment to not have to pay attention to what he's doing in the present moment of the here and now for a few seconds, and realized that if it was a retaliation warp into Faraga Wall, then I should be able to. Then his stagger counter should be at starting from 0, and I should be able to go back into the loop from that point. And if you've got an astute ear, you will have just heard what it will take me one more safety pause buffer to confirm for myself, which is that he has decided to do a wild dance again. He can just decide to do that in phase 3. He can still just do that. He can just Wild Dance or Meteor if he feels like it. He has two Desperation moves, and in Phase 3 he can use either of them. I think it's dependent on his weird, inscrutable AI cycles when he does either of them, so if you got a solid Meteor skip for a while, it'll probably be a while before he chooses to use either, but it has been a while. He's at half an HP bar left. So he's Wild Dancing. We do not have the benefit of running far away to get optimal spacing in Phase 3. We just have to live with it, we just have to deal with it, so I figure it out. I roll away to get myself out of immediate death range, and then I do my standard Wild Dance dodge and hope for the best and hope that no arena jank kills me in the process and that I actually still have the required focus to pull off all the spacings and timings. Oh yeah, I never mentioned, I believe if you don't roll directly through the, like right through him, as you roll through the Wild Dance slashes you need to roll through, and instead roll at an angle, you will make it through the slash you're supposed to make it through, but then if your angle is too harsh, his next slash will kill you. So you do have to roll right through him to a degree. Your angle does not have to be perfect or anything, but one more moving piece in the pile. Yesterday, I had an attempt that made it to Phase 3, and he used Wild Dance, and, I got the timing right, but as far as I could tell from looking at the footage afterward, he got arena jank from bouncing off a corner, even though he was not against the wall at the start, so that's great. So there's my usual 3-hit combo to punish Wild Dance. Now, he actually only has two possible actions after Wild Dance in Phase 3. He's either going to immediately Heartless Angel, or he's going to immediately do a second Wild Dance, and again, I'll show that off later too. So, I'm gonna do a quick roll away from him, and it's because of that, my knowing that those are his only two possible actions, that I do that roll right away after I finish my punish, instead of doing my normal Phase 3 post-warp timing, because this gives me space, a little bit of space away from him, if he decides to Wild Dance a second time in a row, and it gives me better timing and positioning to get to him doing Heartless Angel if he does that, which he does. So, playing it back again, you'll see that I immediately roll after the punish instead of waiting for the normal Phase 2 warp timing, and then I go over to him. And then I believe here I try to remember what his global stagger counter is at, and I determine that I'm just not sure what it is at. It's too hard to remember. I just did Wild Dance. What is today's date? I have no idea. So, when I'm not confident, even though forced revenges are worse than soft revenges, it's uh better to do a forced revenge than to have an unexpected revenge, so I go for a 4-hit combo instead of the 3-hit combo I think actually would have been fine. I think he was at 0 stagger counter here. And getting that 4-hit combo, just like any other point in the fight, will put both his continuous and global stagger counters back to 0. Yeah, I'm thinking about it for a long time. And I finally make the decision and go for it, and it pays off. I get the role, like, maybe it's a little weird to say it pays off when I could have gotten more damage and that would have been better optimization, but again, it's better optimization to survive, and I did. And here we have another unfortunate Heartless Angel, with me rolling in the exact wrong direction as he spawns in once more, but this time even farther away from him. And here's your big reveal, this is not a damageless run. If you want to do even better than me, get right to it. I'm done with this fight for now. Maybe I'll come back later if I feel like it. I feel like I learned a whole video game doing this fight, so I'm not gonna say I won't do more of it later, but I'm done for today. Uh, go do Sephiroth. Like alluded to earlier, in this situation, we've got the halo over my head. That means Heartless Angel is going to activate on me. It's gonna set my HP to 1 as if that matters, and it's gonna drain my MP to 0, which matters a bit more, although I'll be recharging it pretty regularly. So I'm gonna be doing individual soft hits on him to uh keep him out of play for as long as possible while I'm suffering from Heartless Angel. And that uh gave me just enough leeway so that I can move again now that his soft revenge has been triggered and he's standing right next to me to do Shadow Flare, so I can jump up. And I know I got 2 hits on him just now, so I'll just get 1, and I'm right back to it. Everything's fine. Oh yeah, and I forget if I've mentioned this or not, but the reason you see me pause after the last of my 3-hit combos all the time in phase 3 is so that it is not only easier to react to whether I got the uh extra non-staggering damage hit on him, but more importantly to react to how far I am in my Keyblade swing. Um Relative to when he warps next to me so that I can time that better. And I talked before about how uh, when you're managing the soft revenge shadow flare that way, you don't have to do a full high jump. But in the instance I showed, I still, when I was talking about it, I still reached the apex of my jump. I just stayed in the air for less time. You do not even have to reach the apex of your jump, uh, as long as you actually wait for him to spawn in next to you before you make your jump. You can do a mid jump and fall back down, and the orbs can be far enough above you that you do not take damage and die from it. Um, it it isn't totally free or anything. If you just jump really, really low, then they can hit you even if you're on the ground. But as long as you get even a fair bit of height, then it's fine to fall back down and combo him normally, even if you short hop after. Although, you don't need to do the short hop. You can still keep a combo on him with just first hit Keyblade overhead swings. Just with those strikes, you can like do one strike, overhead strike, and then wait for Sora to be out of the situation where he would do another hit in his combo and thrust, and then just do another strike again, and Sephiroth will still be in the combo and not done staggering. You can just bop him over the head over and over. It's the hardest super boss ever made. You just hit him gently over the head a bunch of times if you want to. So that's great. I like that. Alright. Fight's almost over at this point. You really want to keep him in the loop as much as possible, even this deep in. It is possible once he only has uh 5 ticks of HP left, so I guess that'd be 20 HP left to just kill him outright with strike raids. I did that once or twice in practice. Um, and even if he has a tiny bit more HP than that, you might be able to just reactivate another strike raid afterward with enough MP, but it is less reliable in Phase 3 to be in strike raid than to be in the loop, even if it's better to be in strike raid than to be dead. If Sephiroth is not on the field at all, like if he's in the middle of a warp and you're in the middle of a strike raid, I don't think you can even activate another strike raid Keyblade toss. So it's pretty dangerous. You really just want to try to pretend nothing is at stake and you're just fighting like normal up until the very last moment, unless you're already strike raiding. And this is the part where he's dead. This is the part where he's died. This is the part where he kills you is over, and this is the part where he doesn't kill you. I always like half expect a little heartless heart to float out from him just because that always happens in these climactic death boss scenes in KH1, even though I know full well he's not a heartless, he's just a guy who says, excuse me, he's just a guy who says, descend, heartless angel. Remember this part of the video? I don't remember this part of the video. It was only 2.5 hours ago. Wow. You know, like an hour in, I want to say, partway through, I, uh, I got self-conscious about, like, peaking the mic with my audio settings, and then I accidentally reset my audio settings completely, and then I, like, turned the audio settings, I think, back almost to what they were, but not quite as high. And it looks like I'm still peaking the dang mic. This is just the built-in microphone of my laptop. I don't know what I'm doing. I just play Kingdom Hearts. So I've just been paranoid for the last like 2 hours that the audio quality on this is miserable. But if it's audible if it's even a little bit audible, then this is probably what we're going with because I don't want to I don't want to do this again. Well, you've stuck it out this long, so let's see the climactic cutscene, the climactic showdown. Oh, there he is. It's Ventus from Final Fantasy VII. And there's the Keyblade.
Our union was not finished. Join me and we can complete the Keyblade. I've got a better idea. How about I destroy you both? The Keyblade is made of your heart too, idiot. You can't say idiot. This is a Disney game. I don't even know what Disney is. And then they kissed. Wow, I recognize this music. I recognize it from when it was sped up to triple speed, and I heard the Froggle Wall sound effect also at triple speed, and it went, the Froggle Wall went. I don't know if that picked up on the mic at all, maybe it got filtered. I'm just in full mess mode now. God, I miss Nachtflugel. I wish I had Nachtflugel or Dark Impetus Prime for this boss. But instead we have this. Once known as the greatest of swordsmen, his whereabouts have been unknown for some time. He challenged Sora to a one-on-one duel. No one knows why the journal was closed so suddenly, but rumors say that it has something to do with the triangle button and the start buttons. Button mappings haven't been swapped. The body is gone. The heart should have returned to the heartless, and yet nothing. This one is unlike any other. I can't read that fast. Who's controlling this? After, after 3 hours of frantic post-commentary was not the appropriate time to try to do impressions of male characters. I can't even do my own normal voice anymore. My voice is shot. Okay. So I cannot show off all the behaviors of Sephiroth in one video, nor can I likely discuss them all. I'm just doing the best I can, even after over 3 hours. But I got what footage I could scrounge up from my practice and from my runs that failed partway through, and noted timestamps with some things so I could note some stuff. So here's the first of those. I have this marked down as 7 minutes 19 seconds. So let's go to about there. This is the phase 2 transition. I want to show off what happens, how you can survive the phase 2 transition if he does the phase 2 transition after you've done a 3-hit combo, and his stagger counter is at 3, his global counter is at 3. And again, if you actually know what his HP value or his damage value are at, then you can play around it, and you should not ever have to be in this situation if you play well enough. But if you just stop paying attention, or if you cannot see his HP, like in a more normal, less torturous, more official EXP0 run, then you would have to work with this instead. So here's a bit of that. So we can see I'm just getting out of neutral again here because I did a forced revenge. Here's a 3-hit. There's the phase 2 transition.
I'm trying to gather my thoughts on the philosophy of numbers and one-winged angels. So he's to compensate for him being at 3 and still get him in the AI cycle. I hit him only one time for Heartless Angel, so now he's at 4. I'm gonna hit him only one time again, so now he's at 5. Then I'm gonna get one short hop aerial, that puts him at 6, and then I'm just gonna do a single grounded overhead strike, and that puts him at 7. And then now you have less damage on him than you might ideally want starting out phase 2, but you're back into the groove of phase 2. You can get started. You've reset the situation. He'll go into wild dance like normal. You can get on with your merry way. What's the next thing I have? Jump slash. Right. Because somehow my winning run had no instant jump slashes in phase 2. So I can just show that off really quickly in my 1576 run, which was the best run that I had before actually winning, and was the uh, second time I made it to phase 3 in outside of practice. I forget if I mentioned this. I won the 4th time I made it into phase 3 outside of practice. Practice pays off. Practice is good. Okay, so I have this at 9 minutes 25. So let me find where that is here. Okay. So again, this is the kind of thing where I don't fully understand how it works, why it works, but my guess as to why the delay between strike rate keyblade tosses before super gliding away works for surviving instant Frogwall retaliation is that your survival is dependent on when you start your jump relative to when he warps after his first retaliation attack, not just your direction and speed. So with that in mind, when he does an instant jump slash retaliation, like in phase 3 I got to pause, so it's gonna whiff, I'm going to walk around a little to adjust my positioning optimally and delay the timing on my jump at the same time before jump super gliding away like that. And I just barely made it out of the frog wall. I'll play it once more at full speed. And then you get enough range so another jump slash from him won't kill you, and you can get in close enough to jump over the wild dance. Okay, what's next? I have no footage of phase 2 warp into quick slash, so we're on to phase 3 stuff. Alright, this one is gonna be showing off some meteor behaviors since he didn't do meteor at all in the winning run. I changed how I dodge meteor between my upload of compilations of compilation of phase 3 wins from
practice than when I actually won, so it's going to be especially useful to show this off. I changed this after seeing Ahirun do this. I am guessing that's how it's pronounced since they have a Nico Nico account. Maybe they're Japanese. I don't know. Their last upload was like 10 years ago. Alright, so as you can see, this video is titled Full Run 13. I uploaded my first 8 Phase 3 practices that did the full phase successfully from the save state, but I kept recording them even afterward. Maybe I'll upload those later and put them unlisted in a playlist or something. So the meteor stuff was at 1 minute and 8 seconds in. I do get the meteor skip to open this out. We can see I'm in the middle of the loop here in this run for phase 3. But I warp and I get Faragawald. And he still has some of his yellow bar left. With this amount of HP left, it's a little bit hit or miss to determine whether he'll go straight into Meteor out of Faragawal. If he had more yellow bar left than this, I would be almost certain he would do Meteor right out of it. But this is only 1 minute and 15 seconds in, so it's still not too far. I feel like probably hasn't done too much yet. So I buffer my strike raid. And since I'm not sure what he's gonna do, I'm delaying my strike raids a little bit. If I was more confident, I would have just tossed a billion raid throws out as fast as I could to maximize damage. But the strike raid, since I'm waiting to see what he's doing, I delayed a bit. And I see his shadow flaring. I keep throwing. Now he's in meteor startup. I can react to that. He's not going to be taking any more damage at this point in meteor startup. I could probably get a judgment out here and it'd be fine, but it would do nothing. I can raid escape safely here. The shadow orbs have already converged on me. So my invincibility from strike raid carries me through the Frogga wall and the shadow flare both. And now he's gone right into Meteor, which is very nice because I would much rather have him be doing Meteor than I would have him be in full neutral AI. I might show off this Meteor segment a few times depending on how talking about it goes, because there are some moving parts here. But firstly, I'm going to be going to one of the 2 shorter walls of the arena. It matters that it's the shorter ones. Do not go towards the bleachers, go towards the gates or the doors. You might not be able to see all of them at once, but I can see the bleachers and the camera now, and I know from that that a short wall is to the left. So I got my camera good here. In PS2 you can center camera by tapping L2 plus R2 at the same time. I go right up against the wall. If you're right up against the wall, only the furthest out meteor to drop will be able to touch you. No other one will. The shockwaves from any meteor can touch you from any point in the arena, but the shockwaves actually have travel time, and the first meteor to drop will always be the one
closest to the center of the arena, nearest Sephiroth, and therefore farthest away from where you should already be by now. So you can see I haven't even jumped yet, even though the first meteor has fallen down and the shockwave looks like it's about to kill me. Now I've got my jump startup going. I just jump straight up against the wall, and once I reach the apex of my jump and I don't have any more hang time, I activate glide. It's normal glide for stalling, but I guess since I'm just using the wall instead of uh, moving with the wall, like I'm going straight at the wall, I don't think it really matters whether it's glide or super glide in this case. Since I do go right against the wall, Sora is automatically going to cancel glide because he's decided, uh-oh, no more room to glide at, better fall down like a rock. Um, and then I'm gonna activate glide again, and Sora should still be in the air by, as the last shockwave dissipates. So, no matter where any of the meteors except the last one land, and no matter where any of the shockwaves are, no matter what, you should survive 100% of the time with this method. It's only where the final farthest out meteor drops that matters, because where the meteors fall is random, and there's a random chance it can just fall on your head and kill you instantly, which is great. Okay, so, the last meteor to fall and the last meteor out, and the only meteor you care about is also the last one to move all the time. It seems like it might be random which direction the other meteors move. I'm not sure, I don't have to care too much, but the meteor you actually have to dodge always seems to rotate counterclockwise. So you can, depending on which is easier for you, you can either track the meteor that matters with the camera, or you can keep the camera to the left here and react to either way to when the meteor that matters is coming. And then we need to dodge roll through it. And it's gonna come around again, dodge roll through it again, and there it is. The other ones are all exploded. And then the last gigantic supernova. You can like go past it, but I found that pretty unreliable. Um, I like to dodge roll through it, and that's how it looks like a lot of other people do it too. The dodge roll timing for the supernova blast, you actually like activate your roll right after it lands. So it's like already landed barely when you activate your roll. And then I generally have one elixir left in phase 3, and there are very few opportunities to safely use one. So no matter how much MP I have left, if he uses a meteor, then after I roll through supernova, I use the elixir. I should probably play that back again at full speed, but there's another additional thing I want to mention on top of that, on top of just showing it off again, which is, not only are the placements of the falling meteors random, the speed of the falling meteors is also random, and that does include the meteor that matters. Um, Additionally, the explosions from the smaller meteors, besides the one that matters, can kill you even if you are in the relatively safe spot. So, if you're just starting out, a good way to do it is to just track the important meteor, roll through it twice, then panic roll until the small meteors all explode and hope for the best as you just panic roll against the good wall and then time roll through supernova. But if you're looking for a bit more finesse and a bit more of a survival guarantee, or not guarantee, but higher likelihood, then you can try to judge by the important meteor's speed and starting position how many times you'll need to roll through it. Usually it's twice. I believe it is here. It's going at like pretty fast here actually. I was gonna say normal speed, but it's like pretty fast. I think it can go a little faster than that, but that's pretty fast. Uh, and if the meteor had been going really slow, and if it had spawned, like even more towards Sora on the right side of the arena, like if it was in the lower right, going by how the camera is set up now, and if it was going slow, then you probably only need to dodge the important meteor once. Because if it's going that slow and it started that far away on its rotation cycle, then it's probably just not gonna get to you again. And at that point, you can just, like, stay at the right edge of the good wall and just focus on placing your rolls and in accordance with the rest of the meteors. And as for that, now that I have rolled through it twice in this case, it's the time to panic roll until they explode if you're not confident, which I think is what I do here, because they're going, they're kind of all over the place. Um, but still, like, if I had rolled to the right and wound up rolling at the middle of the good wall, I might have wound up next to that explosion and died in this clip. I'm not 100% sure about that. Maybe I would have lived, but I might have died. So if you do have a good idea of uh where the other meteors are in their own rotation cycles and how much time is left before they all explode simultaneously, then you can try to place your rolls with a little bit more intent in timing and positioning to mitigate the odds of getting killed by one of the secondary meteor's explosions. Okay, with all that said, I'm going to play Meteor one more time from the start at full speed without saying anything additional until it's over. Okay, and that brings us on to what he does after Meteor. After Meteor, every single time, uh, he'll do like a side dash in a little circle, like a semicircle, and leave dark orbs behind him in his wake until eventually at a random moment he decides to spin attack at you. In a lot of my earlier practice clears of Phase 3, what I would do was stay far away from him at that same wall I've been at and pause buffer until I see what direction he was moving and roll away from him based on that. Kind of like what you saw me do in the winning run against the double Shadow Flare situation. But again, this is because of seeing Ahirin's video, just like the meteor proper dodge. Um, what I'm gonna do instead is I'm gonna walk right up next to him before he even starts running. Uh, I guess this was before I start doing that, but later I start walking onto him to make the camera a little better there. But so then I angle myself a little bit to not walk right into the shadow orb explosion. Hitbox isn't that big, but can still kill you. And then I start rolling away from him from there. He can still, once in the blue moon, decide to spin attacks stupidly early. But on the whole, this seems way safer than what I was doing before. You get up next to him, wait for him to start running, don't even need to pause buffer, start rolling away from him and keep rolling until he does his spin attack, such that uh, after your roll, you can either jump right at him to punish or wait for him to land and punish like that. So I'll do that part again, get up next to him, walk forward, roll away, see that he did his spin attack far away from me, and get the thing. Okay. This is another case where it's probably been a while since you were in the loop, so you want to make sure that you either remember what his global stagger counter is at. In this case, it is 3 because it was a retaliatory Faraga Walls that started all this, or you want to do a 4-hit to 4th retaliation. 4-hit can be a little bit iffy after Meteor because of what's coming up, but again, better iffy than dead. Oh, it looks like I didn't realize he was at 3 and I went for 4, didn't I? Yeah, I went for 4. Okay. Well, that'll give me something to talk about too. Okay, so I got the Phantom hit there. But I'm not going to jump right away like I normally do for Shadow Flare because the double Shadow Flare thing I covered earlier where he has stagger immunity for first Shadow Flare and then does a second one right after. He always has that one time right after he uses Meteor. So it's actually predictable after Meteor. I'm not sure if eventually he forgets about it and then things get iffy or not, like how he can forget to use Meteor in general, but we saw here that I forced a retaliation in the middle and then did another soft revenge, and he's still gonna have that uh double shadow flare, so I think of this for myself as a single-use meteor immunity to knockback. So anytime he uses meteor, you can know that you should change how you respond to shadow flare one time the next time he does it. And the way that you respond to his double shadow flare when you know it's coming
is you wait for him to summon the orbs. You wait for him to go, come. And then after he summons the orbs, then you high jump. And then you do a normal glide away from the orbs for about a full second, maybe even a little more. And then you drop your glide, and then you get your punish on him as you're falling down. It's kind of a lot to internalize, but it really pays off to internalize it properly and be able to uh, get more damage off of it and increase your survivability by increasing your ability to re-enter into the loop. And because I got the phantom hit there earlier to trigger the soft retaliation, I only did one hit there, and then I'm gonna do the normal soft retaliation punish. That part might be a little bit more advanced. Maybe don't worry about that unless you've been doing the fight an incredibly long time, but the single-use meteor immunity is definitely something I would try to learn and keep in mind if you want to take the fight on at this level. So, I'll just go through the whole process again one more time from the start since there was a lot going on there. Trigger forced retaliation, get my normal roll, get my buffered strike raid, attack him until I see what he's doing. He's doing meteor, raid escape, high jump up at the short wall, glide at the wall again, fall down, wait for the meteor that matters, roll through it twice, roll, timer roll through supernova, pop an elixir if you have it, walk right up next to him, roll away from him until he's finished attacks, go for your normal punishes until you trigger a shadow flare. Then once you get a shadow flare going, do not do your normal immediate high jump. Instead, wait for him to summon an orb, then high jump, normal glide, drop, punish, and then you're back in the loop. That's a lot, but it's really helpful to learn. So I strongly suggest learning it as well as you can if you want to do the fight. Okay, how long have we been going now? 3.5 hours. Great, what's next? Next is Double Wild Dance. Okay, this one's easy. I don't have anything new I'll have to say about this. It's just showing off with my own footage that it is a thing that he does. So, we'll just show that off and so you can see it and then move on. Did I put this timestamp right? He's not doing anything. This doesn't seem right. I'm backing up. Okay, here we go. I think did I type that? Yeah, I typed 3 minutes and 41 instead of 2 minutes and 41 seconds. Okay, here we go for real this time. Please? Let's see. Oh no, it's 3:18. How'd I get it off by 30 seconds? What? Whatever. So he starts it up right again right after the other one, so I roll away a little bit to give myself a little distance. And now he'll always follow up the second one with Heartless Angel no matter what. In phase 3, if he does Wild Dance, once the next thing will either be Wild Dance or Heartless Angel, and if he does 2 Wild Dances in a row, it's always Heartless Angel after that. Okay, next thing. Next thing is to show off him using Frogawall into Empty Jump in phase 3. 144 here. So since I managed to get a rollout here instead of a strike raid, giving me more immediate mobility, I can wait for him to do something, kind of like in the full attempt. And he just does this huge jump. And it's like bizarrely hard to hit him, and if you miss, he kills you. But if you hit him, you stagger him, and it's great. It's pretty nice. So he does a lot of different harmless things after a Frogawall in phase 3. It's pretty good. Even if he can kill you sometimes, I definitely think it's worth waiting him out to see what he does in that situation. And I also wanted to show off his using Double Shadow Flare in neutral, which is a little different from what I've been referring to in the past for Double Shadow Flare. This is at 220 and we're at 215 or so, so it should be coming up. So I guess we'll end up in neutral again soon. This is one of the videos I already have on YouTube, but not with commentary. So I got my raid out through the Frogawall, and now we're fully in neutral behavior, and he goes into a Shadow Flare. Yet another less deadly thing he can do out of Frogawall. And I really have to think about it when judging how much invincibility I have left on my strike raid, but the orbs do not get me like that. So, if he Shadow Flares twice in a row in neutral, or if he would, I think that's different from if he does it as part of his soft retaliation, and then you can just hit him outright either one, but that's less important of a detail. The more important piece, the reason that's less important is because it's less common to wind up in a position where you can react to the first Shadow Flare in the first place in neutral. What's more important is that sometimes if you're in neutral, you can safely take a first Shadow Flare as an opportunity to escape Strike Raid, like I just did here. And when he does use Shadow Flare in neutral, he usually, maybe even always, he usually follows it up by warping next to you and doing another Shadow Flare right away. Second one again, kind of like the 2 Wild Dances in a row. Except the Wild Dance thing is unreliable. This seems to just be a thing he does. A thing he does do. So I land here, and I think about it for half a second, and then I wait for him to show up next to me again. And indeed, he does not spawn in with a jump slash or a spin attack and kill me. Instead, he spawns in with a second Shadow Flare. So then you can jump up for that one. The thing is, as the role that this 2 in a row Shadow Flare takes
in his standard neutral AI, as far as I can discern, is that he will always follow them up with a spin attack. If you really wanted to, you could try to pause buffer a parry for a spin attack after he starts it up, but that's unreliable. As far as I can tell, even if you buffer perfectly, there's a degree of positioning and timing that makes it random whether you can parry his spin attacks. And you don't really need to worry about that because you can just punish either of these two Shadow Flares outright, as far as I can tell. I'll show it off one more time after this video, but here he's gonna want to spin attack after this Shadow Flare he just did. I'm gonna try to punish the Shadow Flare outright. And the weirdest thing, one of the weirdest things I've ever seen is gonna happen. Watch his HP bar here. So I actually hit him and parried him here at the same time. It did damage to him, but I got a parry. That's more of a fluke. But what does matter about this is that I think it's just safe to go for a standard falling aerial attack punish on either the first or the second Shadow Flare, as long as you're in position for it. Because most of the time, you'll hit him and stagger him before he can ever spin attack you. And even in this freak accident where he spin attacked so fast he managed to get it out, not only did I get damage, but I parried, and then if you do parry spin attack, you can punish him with a short hop aerial. It's great. It's awesome. So to show off the Shadow Flares in neutral in a slightly less hectic setting, here it should be, again, just getting into a situation where I'm in neutral and then seeing he's getting a Shadow Flare off right here. I managed to barrel roll through it, and then I just know he's gonna do it again, and I jump up and hit him for it. It's great. Okay, I think I've only got, finally, one more thing left to cover. And then I can do the outro thing, I guess. This is at 3:18. So, in Phase 3, I think the most dangerous situation to be in is with him in his full neutral AI, not doing any of the more reactable behaviors, and instead being unpredictable and primed to do jump slashes, quick slashes, spin attacks, run spin attacks, warp spin attacks, fake out timings, whatever he wants. There's theoretically stuff you can do. You can like try to guess with a timed short hop attack into landing and timing a roll to try to cover his options, but the randomness means you can still die to his option coverage, so it's a total blitz, and you really need some practice with it. In the end, the best solution I could find was to look for spots to activate strike raid and then just keep delaying and reactivating the strike raid tosses as much as I could and hoping an opportunity to escape strike raid would present itself, no matter how unreliable that may be. And part of that is recognizing what those opportunities even are. I found some weird ones that I'm not going to cover because they seemed even more unreliable and harder to identify, and I only got them like once, if or maybe twice. I think one of them I literally only got once, and they're weird. So I think there are more potential raid escapes that I don't feel confident about speaking to, but there's one in particular that is very selective in how you need to do it, but shows up commonly enough that I think it's really valuable to learn. It's probably overkill even for this challenge if you have 46 defense, but if you have 1 defense, I think this is really useful. So it's right here, which is to pause buffer a normal attack as he finishes his spin attack. You barely have any opportunity to make this work, so I'm gonna go over it a little piece by piece. So I'm activating raid as he's running toward me. He's like started his run. It's not immediately as he starts his run. His timings on stuff is unpredictable, so that's just like the best bet I have. It's not a must. But when he's running toward me and he's taken a few steps, I activate my raid. And then if he spin attacks without warping, uh, you're gonna be in no position to raid escape. But you can see here, Sora already has. I paused like a frame late or so, but he already has his Keyblade back in his hand when the spin attack animation has started, and that's about what you want to see. It's a little tough to react to, so what I was kind of looking for was seeing Sora already like pulling back his hand again with his Keyblade when the spin attack animation was going. It is pretty easy to misjudge this and wind up dead for it from regaining control of Sora too late or mistiming your punish. But if you do some crazy amounts of pause buffering, here we can finally see that the raid prompt has grayed out, which means I can no longer reactivate strike raid. I'm starting to come out of it, but I don't have control again quite yet. And then on the next pause, I have attack, and Sephiroth has just landed. So that's like, this is like, I want to say like the frame where it works, or close to it, like the last possible moment it could have worked, because I still need to get my overhead strike out afterward. So I do not think that is frame perfect or anything close to it, but it is not generous either. It's definitely something you need to get a feel for on the level of his other standard attacks, if that's something you're going to incorporate, but it is very useful if you can get it. So I think ideally we would have seen Sora even further into his Strike Raid animation by the time the Spin Attack came out, but I'm not positive about that. So you should test it for yourself if you want to incorporate it. Okay, and finally, at coming out on 4 hours in almost, I believe that is everything I wanted to cover. This was a journey on its own, apart from the general challenge run of the game as a whole. This was almost a month of fighting this guy, but it paid off. And, you can too, but please decide carefully whether you actually want to do the fight this way, if you want to take it on, because this is a very complex, difficult to execute, long-lasting, unfair fight. I'll try to remember to leave a link to Ahirun's video on Sephiroth's final mix behaviors. It does not account for my understanding of every behavior I know or feel like I've encountered with Sephiroth, but as far as I can tell, everything in it is accurate, and I did not find the video until I had already practiced Phase 3 for like more than a few days. I was already semi-confident in it. It's a little hard to parse because of how complex Sephiroth's AI behaviors are. I'm guessing the reason it doesn't, there are some slight things that don't line up with my understandings. It's just that I'm doing so many weird behaviors to manipulate his AI. It just makes things weird in ways I don't understand relative to that. But yeah, very good resource. It's a lot going on because of how random Sephiroth is, but it's very well done 10-year-old video of Final Mix Sephiroth's PS3 version. Okay, well, that's about that, I suppose. I'm very, very happy I did this, even if, it definitely had its ups and downs. Sometimes I felt like I was learning things, new things, even after I'd already been doing the fight for weeks. Sometimes I felt like I had unlearned things I already knew. Sometimes I felt like I was bashing my head against a wall. Sometimes I felt extremely confident. Eventually it paid off. If you want to try this, then if you have a way to contact me, then I'll probably be happy to help. But either way, the best of luck to you. I know if I can do it, it's not impossible, and if I can do it, more people can do it. So, good luck. And if you've actually listened to this 4-hour thing, then thank you for that too, I suppose.
And goodbye.